They called it the greatest army in history, disciplined, unstoppable, the iron backbone of an empire. But behind the glory and marble statues was a nightmare most men wouldn't survive. For Roman soldiers, daily life meant exhaustion, hunger, fear, and pain. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on what it was really like to serve Rome, and why being a Roman soldier was pure hell. Number 1. Endless marches. A Roman soldier's life began and ended on the road. The legionary was expected to walk farther than any man of his time, sometimes over 20 miles in a single day, while carrying a personal load of up to 100 pounds. The pack included armor, weapons, tools, rations for days, a cloak, tent stakes, and even the soldier's own cooking equipment. There were no supply trucks or horses for the common infantryman. He was the transport system. The Roman army moved like a machine, and that machine was powered by human legs. They crossed the Alps, forded freezing rivers, and trudged through sweltering deserts. The saying among veterans was that Rome's strength lies in her feet. After hours of marching, they did not rest. Every evening, they dug ditches, raised ramparts, and built a fully fortified camp before they were allowed to eat or sleep. The next dawn, the same routine repeated: march, dig, guard, move. It was a test of will more than of skill. Blisters, sore backs, and bleeding feet were so normal that soldiers stopped complaining. Pain simply became part of life. Number 2. Relentless training. Training in the Roman army wasn't just difficult, it was deliberately punishing. The goal was to build obedience so deep that instinct replaced thought. New recruits drilled with wooden swords twice as heavy as real steel to build endurance. They practiced thrusting into straw dummies, marching in formation, running under armor, and constructing full-scale camps until exhaustion. Centurions screamed orders and punished hesitation instantly. A single man, breaking formation during drills, could cause collective punishment for the entire unit. Recruits practiced swimming in armor, climbing walls, throwing the pilum, the Roman javelin, and digging trenches with military precision. They also trained in engineering. Every soldier had to know how to build bridges, siege engines, and defensive walls. A Roman soldier was both warrior and laborer, architect and killer. The famous saying, "Sweat saves blood," summarized the idea. Train so brutally in peace that war feels bearable. Number 3. Unforgiving discipline. The Roman army ruled by fear. Its discipline was legendary, and it was the glue that held vast legions together. Every soldier took a sacred oath, the sacramentum, swearing loyalty to the emperor and obedience to orders, no matter the cost. Breaking that oath meant death. Punishments were public and brutal. Flogging until unconsciousness, stoning by fellow soldiers, or execution by beheading were standard. The worst punishment, decimation, was reserved for collective failure. When a unit mutinied or fled, every 10th man was chosen by lot and killed by his comrades while officers watched. It was psychological warfare turned inward. Fear of your own army was greater than fear of the enemy. This system crushed individuality and bred absolute obedience. The Romans believed a soldier's body was his own, but his life belonged entirely to Rome. Number 4. Miserable food and water. A Roman soldier rarely ate well. The daily diet was mostly barley or wheat porridge called pulse, flat bread baked on a stone, and sour vinegar water mixed to kill bacteria. Meat was a rare luxury, often salted pork or fish if the supply lines reached them. Most of the time, the food was bland, repetitive, and barely enough to maintain energy for endless labor. Spoiled grain and moldy bread were common in distant provinces. Soldiers sometimes supplemented their rations with whatever they could hunt, forage, or steal from locals. Water was another problem. In hot climates like Egypt or Syria, clean water was nearly impossible to find, and men often drank muddy or stagnant pools after filtering them through cloth. The army carried vinegar to purify it, but disease spread anyway. Many died from dysentery or dehydration long before seeing battle. Number 5. Constant labor. When not fighting or marching, soldiers worked. Every evening on campaign, they built fortified camps complete with walls, trenches, and watchtowers. A standard legion of 5,000 men could construct an entire fort in a few hours, digging thousands of tons of dirt with hand tools. When not building camps, they repaired roads, bridges, and aqueducts. The legions were the backbone of Roman engineering. The empire's infrastructure was literally built by its army. Roads across Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa still trace the footsteps of those laboring soldiers. But this construction work broke bodies. Backs ached, hands blistered, and muscles tore under the constant strain. The army's genius for logistics was paid for in human exhaustion. Number 6. Disease and poor hygiene. Roman camps were efficient, but filthy. Latrines overflowed, lice and fleas spread without control, and the smell of thousands of sweating men mixed with animal waste and rot. Bathhouses were rare on campaign, and washing in rivers was often forbidden to avoid ambushes. The result was disease on a massive scale. Dysentery, malaria, and typhus were common killers. Wounds became infected easily, since medical tools were crude and rarely clean. Roman medicine had skilled doctors, but limited knowledge bloodletting and herbal mixtures were the main treatments. Surgery was done without anesthesia, using wine to numb pain and cauterize wounds. Some legions lost more men to sickness than to battle. On long campaigns, the army's march was followed by a trail of shallow graves. Number 7. Heavy armor and heat. Roman armor looked glorious, but felt like torture. The lorica segmentada, made of interlocking iron plates, offered excellent protection, but was brutally uncomfortable. In hot climates, it turned into an oven. In cold regions, it froze against the skin. Underneath, wool tunics soaked in sweat rubbed sores raw. Soldiers constantly maintained their armor oiling it, fixing straps and cleaning rust. A neglected armor piece could mean punishment, so men spent hours after marches just maintaining gear. Helmets pressed tight, restricting breathing and hearing during battle. Combined with a heavy shield, scutum, a sword, javelins, and full pack, a soldier's equipment often weighed half his body weight. There was no comfort in the Roman uniform, only endurance. Number 8. Monotony and mental strain. Despite the image of constant warfare, most of a Roman soldier's time was spent waiting. Campaigns involved months of standing guard, repairing walls, or patrolling empty terrain. The boredom was soul-crushing. Gambling, drinking, and brawling were common distractions. Commanders tried to keep men busy with construction projects, but monotony led to mental fatigue. Many soldiers developed what we'd now call depression or trauma, though Romans had no words for it. A soldier might witness a dozen battles in his lifetime, but he spent years between them, trapped in repetitive labor, surrounded by the same men, far from home, without freedom or family. Number 9. Battle, the real hell. When battle finally came, it shattered any illusion of glory. Roman warfare was personal, close, and bloody. Soldiers fought shoulder to shoulder in tight formations, stabbing with short swords instead of swinging. The goal was efficiency, not heroism. The front line was a nightmare. Shouting, metal crashing, bodies pressing, and the stench of blood and sweat. Shields splintered, bones cracked, and soldiers drowned in their own fear. The testudo formations, the famous tortoise of interlocked shields, trapped heat and suffocation inside. Soldiers often fought for hours under direct missile fire before even reaching the enemy. Even victorious battles were massacres. Many who survived bore scars, missing limbs, or permanent psychological damage. Number 10. Miserable living conditions. 8 men shared a single tent, called a contubernium, sleeping on straw mats or bare ground. During rain, mud flooded the tents. In winter, frost stiffened their blankets. Rats ate stored grain, and fleas infested clothing. Soldiers carried their own tools, built their own ovens, and cooked their own meals. After a day's labor, they had little energy left, yet discipline demanded everything remain clean and battle-ready. Even during brief moments of rest, they could be ordered to pack up and move at any moment. Peace was temporary. Rome's army never truly rested. Number 11. Low pay and exploitation. A Roman soldier's pay was small compared to his sacrifice. Under Augustus, a legionary earned 225 denarii a year, increased later to 300, but deductions for food, equipment, and clothing left little. Corruption was rampant. Officers withheld pay, claiming delays from Rome. Some soldiers waited years for arrears, living on promises. Many joined for the hope of land after retirement, but the plots they received were often infertile or dangerous frontier lands. The army thrived on discipline, but ignored fairness. Those who complained risked flogging or dismissal without pension. Number 12. Life without family. Service in the legions meant complete separation from home. Officially, soldiers were not allowed to marry during active duty. Many formed unofficial relationships with local women, fathering children who were legally illegitimate. They watched their families grow up through rumors and rare letters carried across the empire. A soldier who enlisted at 18 might retire in his 40s, if he survived, returning to a home that no longer knew him. The army became his family, his unit his brothers. When one fell, it felt like losing blood. Emotional bonds formed in suffering, not comfort. Number 13. Political pawns. The Roman army was the foundation of political power. Generals like Caesar, Pompey, and Sulla used their soldiers' loyalty to seize control of Rome itself. Soldiers found themselves fighting not foreigners, but fellow Romans in civil wars. During the empire, the same pattern continued. Emperors depended on the army to stay in power, and the legions learned that they could make or break rulers. Some emperors were proclaimed by their troops, others were murdered by them. Soldiers became tools of ambition, manipulated by promises of gold or citizenship. Loyalty to the emperor often meant killing one of his rivals, sometimes your former commander. Number 14. Brutal climates. The Roman Empire stretched from Scotland to the Sahara, and soldiers were sent wherever they were needed. They froze in Germanic forests, burned in Syrian deserts, and drowned in Balkan mud. Uniforms were mostly the same regardless of climate, forcing soldiers to improvise with animal skins or stolen cloaks. Frostbite, heatstroke, and exhaustion were constant threats. In the desert, water shortages killed as surely as arrows. In the north, wet armor rusted overnight, and soldiers woke shivering under ice. Nature was as deadly as any barbarian horde. Number 15. Ruthless enemies. Roman legions faced enemies who refused to fight by Roman rules. Germanic tribes hid in forests, ambushing supply lines. Parthians struck from a distance with swift horse archers. Celtic warriors charged screaming into battle, painted in blue woad, terrifying even veterans. In Judea, rebels attacked at night and melted into the hills. The legions were masters of order, but chaos was their greatest enemy. In the Teutoburg forest disaster, 3 legions were surrounded and annihilated. An entire army lost because Rome underestimated its foes. To fight Rome's wars was to walk into the unknown, where every tree or dune could hide death. Number 16. No freedom or choice. A soldier's life belonged to the state. Once enlisted, there was no quitting. Orders came from above, and questioning them was treason. A centurion's command was law, even if it meant certain death. Soldiers had no say in where they were sent or whom they fought. They couldn't marry, own land, or even leave camp without permission. The only path to freedom was survival until discharge, and many never made it. The Roman army didn't raise men to think. It trained them to obey. Number 17. Fear of cowardice. Courage was mandatory. Cowardice was a crime worse than desertion. A man who dropped his shield or turned from battle could be executed publicly. The army believed shame was a weapon stronger than steel. Soldiers were forced to witness executions to remind them what failure meant. Even rumors of cowardice could destroy reputations and end careers. This constant pressure created soldiers who fought not for glory, but out of pure terror of punishment. Number 18. Endless wars and no peace. The Roman Empire never stopped expanding, and its legions never stopped moving. When one war ended, another began on a new frontier. A soldier who conquered Gaul might be sent to Judea, then to Dacia, then to Britannia. Campaigns lasted years, sometimes decades. There was no rotation, no rest. Some veterans spent half their lives under the eagle standards, fighting for emperors they never met. Peace was only a rumor between wars. Number 19. Forgotten after death. Rome celebrated victory with parades, triumphs, and monuments, but not for the men who bled for them. Generals and emperors received statues. Common soldiers were buried in shallow graves far from home. Their names disappeared into history. Archaeologists still find their bones in forgotten battlefields, mixed with rusted weapons and armor. A soldier's gravestone, if he could afford one, carried only his name, rank, and unit. Here lies Marcus, who served faithfully 25 years. That was the legacy of a lifetime of suffering. Number 20. Death without glory. For all Rome's grandeur, most of its victories were paid for by men who never saw the rewards. A soldier could die from an arrow, a fever, or a slip on a mountain road, and the army would simply move on. The empire was built on their sacrifice, but history barely remembers them. Rome promised glory and citizenship, but it delivered exhaustion and early graves. The legions built roads, conquered nations, and expanded civilization. But for the average man, being a Roman soldier was less a career and more a sentence. Every scar was proof of endurance, not honor. Every victory banner was stitched with human pain. And that's the truth behind the polished marble and triumphal arches. Beneath Rome's greatness stood millions of soldiers who lived short, harsh lives, fighting, building, and dying for an empire that forgot their names the moment the next battle began.